Thank you very much indeed. I'm grateful to you for the opportunity to share some impressions about our dear departed colleague in this respect, and welcome indeed the remarks of Professor Feldberg and Professor Simons, who had so much time with him in the Netherlands. I was trying to think back as to when I first met Professor Boguslavskiy. I remember meeting Professor Luntz in 1968, and when I was in Moscow in 1972, I recall that Professor Tunkin was very proud indeed that they were offering a Spets seminar at Moscow State University on private international law at the time. I can't remember who was doing it, but it was not Professor Boguslavskiy in those years. I think private international law lived for some time a shadow existence. It was important in the Academy of Foreign Trade and elsewhere where the sound practical knowledge was essential for Soviet personnel to know something about foreign law and particularly foreign commercial law. And that brought them to the world of private international law without question. And then there was Professor Luntz's 3-volume opus, which was a wonderful introduction to the subject at the time. My guess is that I met Professor Boguslavskiy in the 1980s when he came to University College London on the direct link that was formed at the time between University College London Faculty of Laws and the Institute of State and Law of the USSR Academy of Sciences. I don't have records which show me easily at hand precisely what occasion that was, whether he came with the Russian, then Soviet Association of International Law, but come he did, and he will have given a wonderful report as part of that exercise. Where my paths did cross with him more directly was when I became of counsel to a boutique Washington, D.C. firm with a London office and a desire to open a branch in Moscow. The firm was called Cole, Corrett, and Abrutin. It no longer exists. It went out of existence in the early 1990s. But Professor Boguslavskiy took the bold and brave step of asking whether I could possibly arrange an internship for him at that firm or some other firm in London that would enable him to get an inside view of how Western law firms, English law firms, practiced Soviet law as part of advising potential investors into joint enterprises in the Soviet Union. And he came to London at the time. I think he met Will Simons as part of that exercise and others. And he spent a couple of months watching how we worked and taking part in what was going on. And one of the products of that period, for those of you who collect Boguslavskiy books, was a little volume, I don't know if you can see it, called Joint Ventures in the Soviet Union. General Editor, M.M. Boguslavskiy. And on the title page, English edition edited with commentary by M.M. Boguslavskiy. It's quite a scarce book. It was published in 1992, and the status juris was 1st of January 1992. And of course, we all realize the importance of that date because the Soviet Union no longer existed at the time. So the book was in process during the great transition that was underway at the time. And Professor Boguslavskiy made not only editorial contributions of immense consequence, but he had insight into the Soviet model of the joint enterprise that others did not have. And that's certainly one of the contributions that we recorded in this volume. Of course, the mere fact that the Soviet Union was dissolved did not mean that the legal foundations on which it existed immediately disappeared. And that meant that his book still had value. It is and was a very difficult volume to come across. I don't know if Professor Trunk's Institute has a copy or not, but it's not easily found. And it was a very worthwhile project and came directly out of the period of time that he spent in London on those occasions. There were some discussions that I had with Mark Moiseevich about his autobiography. He very much wanted there to be an English translation, and there were discussions which actually came to nothing at the time. I think partly influenced in that result by health issues that may have experienced then. But whatever the outcome, whatever the reason, it was a project that did not transpire. He was, as my predecessors on this platform have already said this morning, a remarkable individual, friendly, approachable, deeply interested in matters, non-political essentially. I can't ever remember discussing Russian or Soviet politics with him. His work on the state immunity that he wrote part of his early dissertation was a standard work in the field. It really hasn't been surpassed by anything else. It's a difficult and complicated subject. It was for the Soviet Union. It has been for post-Soviet legal systems. I think the Russian Federation still awaits 30 years on a law on the question of state immunity and the issues that have to be navigated in connection with producing such a piece of legislation are formidable. But I think I share with all of you warm memories of Mark Moiseevich. He was a significant scholar in his field. He was the man in the world of private international law of his generation, and he thoroughly deserves this Jubilee commemoration that we're giving him today. Thank you.